There's a couple of famous races, or probably three. There's the Rolex Sydney-Hobart, the Rolex Fastnet, and then there's a Transpac, and we've been fortunate to win every one of them.
They're the big, fat, heavy guys from the UK, you see, manned and crewed by Aussies. But for us, if we're going to have any chance here, we do need a bit of a blow.
Any one of 5 boats could win this race, and I think it's going to be a tough race. And you know, it's just an honour for us to be in the race again, and a privilege to be racing against all these guys. And you know, may the best team win.
We're very focused on safety and making sure the boat is 100%. And if we are unhappy with anything we see along the way, we'll be turning around and coming back.
Hi, I'm Nikki Bethwaite from Sydney, Australia for BoatsOn.tv, reviewing the 65th Rolex Sydney-Hobart yacht race. It's going to be a spectacular event because it's the first time in the history of the event that 7 maxis raced each other to Hobart. And now I'd like to introduce you to Matt Allen, Commodore of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia.
Well, the club is ecstatic with not only the entries, with having 100 yachts hitting the 2 start lines at 1 o'clock this afternoon, but also just the coverage of the race and the excitement and the build-up of having what is really the best fleet of big yachts that have ever started in any race anywhere else in the world. So it's very exciting for the club, and it shows you that the Rolex Sydney-Hobart race is continuing to grow and is really the world's leading ocean race of its kind.
Boxing Day in Australia dawned wet and overcast in Sydney, and the action started early at the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia as the boats go through final preparations for the big race of the year. We spoke to a number of the skippers.
We're talking to Mike Slade, who is the very popular skipper of ICAP 11.
Yeah, not with my crew, I'll tell you that for nothing, Jeff. Yes.
You certainly are with the media, Mike, put it that way. Now look, I've just been talking to the Commodore, and the Commodore's betting you in.
Well, I gather we're 4 to 1 against on the betting market, and we've all put a big wager on ourselves, but that could be just stupid, couldn't it? No, it doesn't necessarily mean to say we're going to do any better. What the guy's looking at is it's southeasterlies, flicking sort of westerlies. So if we've got a decent 12-hour upwind and we can lay a bit, we should be quicker than the other 2 RP boats that we're particularly concentrating on, obviously Alfa and Wild Oats. Now if that at least keeps us with them, you know, you're in the hunt, aren't you? So we're the big, fat, heavy guys from the UK, you see, manned and crewed by Aussies. That's what you need down here.
Well, you've got the best of both worlds, haven't you?
Well, I don't know about that. So I was very amused to hear that the weather has been predicted very much by, they're using in Oz here now, a UK model. And I listened to this with some trepidation because I'm not certain the UK model's ever done it right anyway. So I don't know what Barry yesterday was talking about. It's been an amazing week because twice a day it's changed. It's this cyclone that's making it different. I've done now 3, and they've all been downwind kite races. The last 2 have been shirt sleeves. And skippers don't like a rough race because it hurts everybody. It's a pain and it's damage and it's dangerous. But for us, if we're going to have any chance here, we do need a bit of a blow. And it's interesting that all the big maxis, apart from ours, are down in the southern hemisphere. So we've got to come down here and play with you guys. So that's what we've got to do. And we're very happy to do it. We're delighted to be here.
And they're calling it the Magnificent 7. So.
I know, great. I wish I had the tape I could play it at the start.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It's going to be a fantastic race.
I think it's going to be one of the really classic ones. You're going to see a lot of changes of lead. And again, it's difficult. We're out, they're in, they're out, we're in. And it's going to change. And then you come to the Derwent and all hell could let loose. We just don't. It's looking a bit difficult down there, but that depends on the time of day we get there. You know, the record in this race is very hard to beat because to get there before 7 hours 40 in the morning Monday AM, you know, it's going to be dark. And as we all know, rivers are quiet at 4 or 5 in the morning. There's no breeze. So it's a hard record to get because you've got to get, you know, through that airless bit drifting up the Derwent River to actually get up into Constitution Dock. But it'd be nice to be there. Hey, we didn't come here to mess about.
Of course, they didn't spend that sort of money.
My mother didn't send me here all this way to mess about.
We haven't done quite so much in the med with a big boat, but we raced a mini maxi, and Mallorca, won the regatta there, and then we took it to Mini Maxi Worlds, Sardinia won that, so we had a good trot with that boat, and then we took the big boat to Transpac, and that was a exciting time. We did, I think we took 22 hours off the record and won the race, so that was a nice race too. Brought the boat back down, then we did the coastal race from Auckland, the Bay of Islands, and once again broke that record, so we've had a pretty good trot. All we've got to do now is go and do Hobart and we'll be happy. These boats are very fast, they're light, and you can launch them off waves pretty easily. So I think part of the trick is knowing when to back off and when to push.
So what have you done to the boat this year? Any changes?
Not really, there's always little changes all the time. Sail configurations, quite different for Hobart to what we use in the Transpac, but no major changes on the boat.
So what's planned for next year?
At this stage we're unsponsored, unfortunately, and we're just looking to get a sponsor so we can go back to Europe.
What about the Australian circuit?
No, not interested.
Back into the Med?
Yeah, back in the Med, and that's where we want to sail.
What about your other boats here?
The little boat's up there, it's for sale, and we've got 2 or 3 quite interesting parties on that, and I think that'll be sold before the season opens. And then we'd like to come with a new boat for 2011.
What size?
Probably Mini Maxi.
Victorian sailor Grant Warrington has had his share of problems in the Rolex Sydney-Hobart. In 2007, the top third of his mast broke off in Bass Strait and he sailed jury-rigged to the finish. This year, on the way to Sydney in Bass Strait, he was fully dismasted. Minutes after, he phoned Neville Crichton of Alfa Romeo to see if he could buy his spare mast in France. It was 2 weeks to the start of the race.
I think it's a hell of a gamble. I mean, logistically, to get the rig out of Europe and then get it into the boat in 10 days, I'd rather it be him than me. I mean, I wish him all the luck, but I think he needs more than luck in that short a time.
It's been quite sporting of you though to sell the mast to him.
I haven't told you what he's paying. No, that's not the case. It's what it's worth, but if we can get another boat on the starting line, suits me fine. The rig will be safe, but I mean, the amount of boxes you've got to tick to get firstly the rig is in La Ciotat, it's got to be cut in half, it's got to be transported from La Ciotat to probably Marseille, then shipped in an aeroplane from Marseille to either Paris or London, and then shipped here and make sure all the connections work. And then when it gets here, he needs to have a team of people ready to make it work. I mean, where he is fortunate, we've got quite a few older sails that I've said he can have and recut that will fit the rig. So at least he's got a sail inventory that may not be brand new, but it will work on that rig for him. But my gut feeling is that he needs a hell of a lot of luck to make it work.
Well, it's only a few days before Christmas and it's a bit like opening a Christmas present, but of course the problem is we've got 2 pieces and we've got to join the other part to this part, so that's our mission for the next 2.5 days.
And work starts pretty much immediately?
Yeah, absolutely. The guys are all here on standby and they've been waiting for the truck to turn up, and we've just unloaded it and stripped the wrapping off it. So yeah, now the hard work starts. You can see the suits on and the grinders will be out to sand the carbon and prepare it for the sleeve.
And it'll be round the clock for the next?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got shifts running right through, so to be able to get it done in time we have to work round the clock. So it's certainly going to be a big job, but we've got the best guys in the world doing it, so we're very confident that they'll get there.
And in very simple terms, how do you put the 2 pieces together?
Well, first of all, in about 600 millimetres from each end, we make a sleeve on the inside, put some packaging tape on and make actually a sleeve, and then we cook that off and slide it halfway out and then glue it in position and slide the other half of the mast over it, and so the whole thing's glued together. And then externally grind the taper in it and wrap that with carbon fibre. So it all sounds pretty easy when I can say it in 30 seconds, but it's a very, very important process that has to be done critically and carefully. So
and there's some cooking involved.
There's some cooking involved, a little bit like baking a cake. Yes, it's all got to be brought up to temperature. This carbon fibre has to be cooked at 100 degrees C, and most importantly has to be ramped up to temperature over a very slow time and a very accurate time. So it's very important that that's done carefully. Well, we have tentatively booked a crane for 6 o'clock on Thursday morning, Christmas Eve, so that's the time. We would like to be sailing that afternoon.
One of the new mini maxi yachts to come onto the European circuit this year was Ran 2. The owner is the Skype inventor Nicholas Zenstrom. We spoke to his skipper, top UK helmsman Tim Powell, and his navigator and U-Grip weather prediction systems inventor Steve Hales.
Well, we started thinking about the design of Ran in June 2008, and we spoke to a few designers, and we settled on Rolex as our designer. We chose the mini maxi class because at that time the class was growing quite quickly, and we wanted to be in a fleet of competitive racing. The boat took 10 months to build and was built at Green Marine in Lymington, UK. We launched it in Barcelona in Spain in April 2009, so earlier on this year. And we basically had a full racing season in the Mediterranean, and then took the boat to the UK to do the Fastnet race, and then back to Mediterranean to do the Rolex Maxi Worlds and the Middle Sea race before coming down here to Australia to compete in the Rolex Sydney-Hobart race. Yeah, well, we spent a long time during the planning stages of, optimising the boat, and that was, we looked at other boats of a similar size and what they had done. We looked at the TP52 fleet, which is, very cutting edge in terms of deck layouts. And although we are a different boat in terms of having to go offshore, we used a lot of those ideas from the TP52 fleet and brought them onto the bigger boat. Everything on the boat is bespoke. It is a one-off boat in pretty much every aspect. We have our grinder pedestal is kind of hooked into a rotary pump for the hydraulics, so we can control various aspects of sail control and mast control with the hydraulics. Everything has been, as I say, given a huge amount of thought, and the end result is kind of the boat that you see. We get our sails from North UK, and our designer is a guy called Mickey Eckhart, who's a very accomplished sail designer, and we're just starting to get into the new North technology, which is the 3DI technology, which is the next step up from 3DL. 8 grinders can hoist the spinnaker up, which takes approximately 2 or 3 seconds to get the spinnaker to the top of the mast. And their big spinnaker is 500 square meters. And then when we come to drop the spinnaker, we have a retrieval system where again we can put 8 grinders onto a drum downstairs, and the whole spinnaker just gets sucked down into the belly of the boat, so to speak. And to be honest, we can drop the spinnaker quicker on a 72-foot boat, and most people would be able to drop the spinnaker on a 45-foot boat. John Williams, who designed our winch system, he is from Oracle based. He is based with Oracle, and a lot of the ideas have been kind of things that have come directly from America's cut boats.
U-Grip was a bit of software we put out there with a colleague of mine, Marcel Van Triest, who's another navigator, and we sort of put the thing out there ready for free just to see how it would go, and it's been a very popular service, and we've sort of turned it into a bit of a commercial product now, and we do a lot of high-end support for things like Volvo race and the Barcelona World race, so actually we're going to provide a system for all of the competitors there. And I really enjoy just everywhere we go we sort of bump into people who use it and hopefully get some benefit from it. So yeah, it's been a good fun project. it's a big commitment to bring the team down here. There's sort of 30 of us involved with shore crew and sailing team and things. So, but the owners and the guys who run the team really wanted to take on the Hobart race. Obviously one of the classics, and we're trying to tick them all off. So it's a lovely time to be down here, and our native England right now is freezing cold. So we're all here enjoying the sun, and really looking forward to a competitive Hobart race.
Bob, we're on the dock at the start of the race. What's your plan for this year, mate?
Jeffrey, well, as you can see, the weather's a little bit inclement, but we're going to give it our best shot. We don't quite know what's going to happen out there, but we'll play it by ear, and I think, we're well prepared. We've got a good, excellent yacht again this year, and we're out to vigorously defend our title.
I believe that you've been doing high altitude training?
Yes, high altitude training in the Andes for elite athletes. I've been over there for 7 weeks, and don't I look fit now? The truth be known, mate, I had to pay the wife off. She said, you're going to take me to South America. But anyway, it sounds the first story was the best story.
Any changes to the boat since the last race?
Not really, just probably a slightly different sail plan than we had last year. We've finessed that a little bit, so we think we're in better shape than last year. We've certainly got a great crew. We're fully ready to go, but this is a very competitive fleet this year. This is probably the most competitive that I've ever sailed on. I've sailed since the late 70s, off and on, for 19 times, but this clearly to me is the most outstanding fleet, even though there are 100 yachts. So, we had 100 yachts last year and we were able to take the money. We just may do it, who knows.
This boat was new a year ago, completed construction about a month before the race, and I went out very unprepared and ended up 7th. Good result for a boat untried. We've since then changed the boat, changed the crew, changed the sails, made lots of little optimizations, and it's been really good. The weather briefing was about as vague as the weather is at the moment. There's troughs and ridges are all very unpredictable by the computers, so the weathermen tend to be a little bit vague with their information, and I think the weather itself will be a little vague. It's not really the way the troughs move. It's very unpredictable, and so we're kind of just preparing the boat for everything. As always with the Sydney to Hobart, there's an element of risk and there's an element of luck, and all we can do is put our best foot forward in terms of crew work and sails and boat preparation, and after that let God sort it out.
We've been spoiled in the last few years. It's been nice sunny starts and fairly fair sailing, so this is a bit back to the old Hobarts where you get a bit of wind and rain and the breeze out of the south, and with a strong front coming through yesterday, we're going to see quite a lumpy chop off the heads and down the New South Wales coast, so it's going to be quite bumpy, so that might even sort a few of the boats out in the first 50 miles.
Well, as far as the boat is concerned, have you done anything to it since last year?
Yeah, we've added a couple of new sails. We've been developing the main and a couple of spinnakers through the Evolution sail loft, and they've come up with some really good shapes that I think will give us a bit of an edge. We've got a new square top main, which is much more powerful, so in the lighter breeze that's going to be a weapon. We're not sure that's going to be a handful though in the heavy breeze, so we've got to learn how to reef it pretty quick, because if the breeze comes up we're going to tend to be a bit overpowered, so we're going to have to hook into getting a reef in quickly.
Well, it's sort of looking a little bit your way, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think so. With a lot of hard reaching, that favours a boat like mine. In the 50-foot range with a canted keel, we can power it up pretty easily and hopefully get our time on some of the other boats. So I think the conditions are good for us. We've just got to get through the first 12 hours into the lumpy seas and not smash the boat around too much, and then we'll look for some power reaching across Bass Strait and down the Tassie coast.
We've secured the boat in January of this year, and we do youth development weeks on the ocean, taking less fortunate kids out, showing them a taste of sailing and a taste of ocean life. It's remarkable to see the change in these kids from the day they get on to the day they get off. They're different people. And part of this program we also do as many offshore races as we can. We're lucky enough for the Sydney-Hobart, 25 years since she won it, we're lucky enough to have kids of the original crew on board. We've got Peter Blake's daughter, Sarah Jane, Conrad Gundry, Simon Gundry's son, and Sam Craig, Gotti's son. So these three young kids, well, 18 through 26, are really holding their own. We've been training now for about 6 months, and we've built a team of 21 crew. So we're a little bit shy of the 27 that went down on the boat in '84. But yeah, with modern sails, we're hoping not to do as much work. Forecast is looking reasonably favourable for us. It's upwind, so yeah, all these downwind sleds won't get the chances to run away from us. But yeah, no, we're really excited. We've done a lot of planning, a lot of prep for this, and it's just good to be here in Sydney, ready to kick off on the 65th Rolex Sydney-Hobart.
Yeah, it is our first time turning right. Usually we turn left to go up to the Whitsundays. We've done that about 9 years in a row now, myself and my wife Kim. And this time we're going down with a whole lot of cruising friends of ours. Well, actually, we've got 7 people in the crew. The difference between our boat and some of the go-fast boats is the fact that we've got toilets at work. In fact, we've got 2 of them. And we've got 2 fridges, we've got 2 coffee machines, got 2 water tanks. So we're just we're looking forward to having possibly a more comfortable cruise in some of them, but we are expecting a bit of rough stuff coming into Hobart. So we're hoping that the weather's going to change a little bit.
Is it cocktails at 5, John?
Well, we pretty much have cocktails at any time during the day because we've learnt that it's 5 o'clock somewhere. We just have to try and figure out which country it is.
Well, I think this is going to be a very unique race. We have 8 super maxis on the same starting line, which is probably the first time ever in the world. And we just thought we had to be part of that. I also think that the digital space is changing and taking over. We're looking at digital media as being probably the most powerful media available today. And what it does for us is it allows us to bring the story to the global public. It's always been a problem with yachting that, when my boys score goals in the middle of Bass Strait, nobody can see it. And hopefully, using the new technology, we'll be able to communicate much more actively and bring the story of 21 people to the global audience rather than the story of 1. Less than 1 billion people who have internet, so about 350 million people in the world who have broadband, but there are 4.4 billion people who have mobile phones. So in my opinion, the digital space will evolve into a mobile phone with additional screen options. And so that's our vision, and therefore we have spent a lot of energy working to become the #1 company in mobile application in the world. So, I feel we're like opening a Pandora's box here, and we started being part of a revolution. I mean, the revolution has been going on the shore for a while, but now we're looking at a revolution where the global audience can follow every single person's global adventures and people living their dreams. And I think it's very inspirational.
Before the start of the race, all the yachts have to check in with the starting boat. And new boats have to show their storm sails. They're the ones with the orange day-glow panels.
3:45. We've got just less than 4 minutes. It's got a big port end bias, so it's going to be all the boats going down to the port end, looking like lots of chances of boats coming together very close at the end. It'll be exciting, but all at the port end could well be the sound of breaking carbon, I think. We'll see. Port 3:30.
In front of Rapture, the cameraman, Scott Alley, catches Bob Steele's last year's winner, Quest, and as they reached the head's turning marker, they hardened up to go behind Alistair Moore's Lion of New Zealand. And as you can see, he made the move too early as he speared Lion in the stern, dislodging their life ring, bent a stanchion, and luckily not breaking his bowsprit. Bob immediately notified the race committee and did a 720-degree penalty turn. Behind them, more incidents were occurring to the second wave of boats coming through. You can see the skipper of 97 indicating to the boat behind that crashed into them to do his penalty turns. Meanwhile, after all the boats have left the harbour, Etihad Stadium was still there. At the start, they couldn't pressure up the mast and keep it straight. The fitting of the new, longer mast made the blocks that managed the 15-tonne forces on the mast push it out of alignment, so it could not face the rigours of racing at sea. As you can see, the headsail will not set properly, so they went home to fix the problems and set up for the Coffs Harbour race a week later. A case of so much to do and so little time. Before crews can participate in the race, they have to go through a very comprehensive safety drill, should they ever need to abandon ship. Even professionals like Wild Oats 11. We were at the Drummoyne pool in Sydney for the crew to go through their safety drill.
Righto, first lot in, other lot round the side. Few other ones around the raft. Be careful with him, he's suffering from severe hair loss. We do it every year before the big races. It's just reinforcement, that's all it is. The biggest cause of accidents and losses in the marine environment is complacency, and that's one thing we are not in this team, is complacent.
In this year's race, there are 3 solid 67-foot yachts that are part of the British Defence Service's Operation Transglobe, which pits them against each other in a global sailing challenge.
Yeah, they're steel boats, 42 tonnes. They were built down in Devonport, where we refit our submarines and refit our surface ships, maintain them down there, built by DML. And they were built, as you say, for the first of the Shaved Lives projects, the Round the World Race the Wrong Way. So on handicap, they're not great. They're especially compared to the likes of your Sydney 38s and things like that. But we're not racing on handicap. We're level pegging the 3 boats. They're all the same, and we'll see what happens when we get there. The boats are owned by the Ministry of Defence, and they're a fixed asset, so that's not going to change wherever they are in the world, really. And the crews pay for their flights, and they pay for their food and accommodation when they're out here. So as far as that's concerned, you know, the cost to the government for this has been fairly low. In fact, I would almost say zero. But what it has done, and the benefit it's given, the teamwork, the esprit de corps, and the opportunity. I've got some guys on here, as Pete has, who are just back from operational tours.
As always around the world at the moment, everyone's working very hard, especially in the military as well. And we've got guys on board who have done a lot of operational tours out in either Iraq or Afghanistan. And this is a great way to actually allow them to sort of just do something that reminds me what else is available in the armed forces. We've got a guy with us that works with guys who have had incidents with IEDs, so improvised explosive devices, and lost limbs out in theatre, and he'll spend his day working with those guys. So to be able to bring him away to something like this and actually give him an experience like this is fantastic. And the guys who are just working extremely hard on the front line, and then you turn around and say, it's Sydney, it's in the summer, it's doing something fantastic, and a once in a lifetime opportunity of Sydney-Hobart, it's absolutely fantastic, and it is totally worthwhile to see the looks on people's faces when we're actually achieving this. And that then gives them something to then go back to, and actually they can remember that as they're sort of going back out to Afghan and working hard.
I was privileged to be the mate on adventure. The skipper was a guy named Charlie Roberts, Royal Signals. After we had a bit of a blow through the initial start of the race, early the following morning, Kumalu put out a mayday, and that she was taking on water. So we managed to establish comms with them, and we diverted off the race to go and give assistance. And touch wood, everything went very safely, and we got everybody off. They transferred to the life raft, then come down onto our boat. We took everybody out the life raft, and got them all sorted out and made sure that they're all happy and contented as best they could be. And we then diverted from the race to liaise with the Australian Navy, where we transferred them, and then we rejoined the race.
Once we've got the Sydney-Hobart out of the way, we're going to be, the guys are going to be picking up the boat, taking them through to New Zealand, and then there'll be a Southern Ocean leg round to Montevideo, and then the boats will be going up into Antigua. I'm going to rejoin the boat in Antigua, and some of my guys will as well. And we're doing the Antigua Race Week with a race team on there. Again, all three services back together racing, a slightly different style of racing, so again it'll be a slightly different team. And then they'll work their way up the eastern seaboard and then across to the UK for finish in the summer.
While the fleet are having all sorts of problems, Hobart is readying itself for their arrival with the Taste of Tasmania Festival. This is held in Salamander Place next to the waterfront. "60 miles from the finish, Alfa is in good pressure in Storm Bay, heading for the Derwent. Wild Oats is 20 miles behind, and Leopard is to sea, another 20 miles behind her. Be calm." We talked to Mike Slade from the press room at Constitution Dock in Hobart.
Keep a nose that goes below and offshore. I don't want to be sucked in to Tasman beaches and all down into Port Arthur. You could be there for the rest of the holiday. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Then we're looking at Tasman Island and going up to the organ pipes at about maybe midnight, 1 in the morning.
In Storm Bay, passing Cape Rowell, with the pressure building, Alfa drops their number 1, bears away and heads for the Derwent's Iron Pot, setting a small Jenica. With dusk rapidly falling, Alfa Romeo has ghosted into the Derwent River on a light northerly breeze, and a large spectator fleet has arrived to welcome her to Hobart and to follow her to her historic finish. Heading on towards the northern shore, Alfa's crew work hard to keep the sail set in the breeze that is dropping. Setting a new headsail, letting off the halyard as the wind is easing, they put in a tack. Now, with the sun setting on the other tack, they are illuminated by the moonlight and the flash of the photographer's cameras. It's a surreal sight as Neville Crichton's Rifle Pew 100-foot canting keel flyer closes on the finishing line of the 65th Rolex Sydney-Hobart yacht race, a race that has seen all types of sailing. Spinnaker starts, first out of the heads, heavy sailing night 1, becalmed on the New South Wales east coast, an easy run over Bass Strait, more calms on the Tasmanian coast, then a good sail across Storm Bay and now a drift up the Derwent. Not big boat weather, but a highly tactical race won by the Alfa crew that have over 142 Hobarts between them.
And together, ladies and gentlemen, for the winning skipper is the Neville Crichton, owner and skipper of Alfa Romeo.
Over the past few years, this race has certainly seen quicker boat speeds. As you know, in 2005, Wild Oats 11 set the race record of 1 day, 18 hours and 40 minutes. Sister ship Alfa Romeo, though, was barely an hour behind that. 1 day, 19 hours and a little bit. That was pretty darn good. Many hungry newsrooms in the country forget that this is a wind-driven, weather-dependent race. Well, they're here now. That's the main thing. This year's Rolex Sydney-Hobart didn't set record times, but it did set record frustration with the lack of wind, certainly in the second day and the second night. That meant endless sail changes by the crew, so if they looked tired, they had good reason, justified. A few questions for you. Most notably, number one, how does it feel?
Feels fantastic, and the welcome here in Tasmania is just unbelievable. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
You always said it didn't have to be first out of the heads in Sydney, it had to be first into Hobart. You've been able to do both, so that must be a sweet glory.
Yeah, that even felt better, but that was only the very short part of it. The rest of the 2 days coming down the coast was hard work, and it was good. The boys did a hell of a job on the boat, and it was very, very close racing.
Snail's pace for a lot of it, did that frustrate you?
Yeah, I'm sure it was frustrating, but that's part of yachting, unfortunately. If the weather gods are good, you go and break the record. If they're not, hey, you still win the race, but it takes a little longer.
Mike Slade of Leopard and also Mark Richards, Wild Oats 11, were hot on your keel several times. I think the lead did change a couple of times. Got any message for them, especially Rico?
Where are they? Well, a bit tired, but fantastic. Yeah, it's such a great feel to win the race, and to come back with a crowd like this here was just unbelievable. This is 4 years old now. We've won, I think, something like 146 races in the boat since we've had it, so it's been very, very successful.
Do you think the 100-foot rule should go higher?
No, absolutely not. I think the cost of building them has sort of got out of control a little bit. If anything, I would choose to go a little bit smaller to probably 80 or 90 feet.
Really?
Yeah.
And the boat like that is capable of winning the Hobart?
Absolutely.
We've won over 140 races now. I just wonder whether that cup there takes pride of place in the house.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, there's a couple of famous races, or probably three. There's the Rolex Sydney-Hobart, there's the Fastnet, the Rolex Fastnet, and then there's a Transpac, and we've been fortunate to win every one of them. So it's been very good.
How does this compare to your previous win in 2002?
Well, I think this is sweeter. It's a lot closer racing, and I think we had it to ourselves. This race, there was probably 5 boats that could win the race. So at no stage it was ever going to be an easy race.
Have you got room for that cup at home, have you?
I made room.
Would you be interested in coming back and trying to replicate the four in a row the way Wild Oats 11 has done?
No, I mean they've virtually had it all their own way in the last 3 years, And this race really is the first race they've had some serious competition, and that proved the point.
Were you a little worried this afternoon? They made up a bit of ground, I think.
No, not really. I don't think they got within 12 mile of us, so that wasn't a problem at all. We're more worried about Leopard, to be truthful, than Wild Oats.
Were you worried when they went to sea?
Yeah, we were, because we couldn't cover both boats. We weren't sure whether so we virtually went up the middle and tried to take a piece of each of them, but if the wind had come in the wrong way, it would have suited Leopard and we would have had a problem with them for sure. I'm definitely a Kiwi and I support the All Blacks.
One of the true legends of the Rolex Sydney-Hobart yacht race. Rolex 11 has been enormous race. So please, as he lines up, could I have 3 cheers, please? Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip. Well done, 11.
It was a very tactical race and we never had a look in really. They had a little edge on us for the first night. The next morning we were in a big parking lot together and they got out first and sort of put 20 miles on us before we knew what had happened. So that's the way it is, and well done to those guys, and fantastic job by the Wild Oats team. I mean, 5 Sydney-Hobarts have had 4 wins in a second, so you couldn't really be unhappy with that.
It's a hard life.
Yeah, that's right. But that's the way it is. That's yachting, and we'll be back next year for another crack at it.
Excuse me, mate. Well done.
Yeah, well done.
Really well done.
Tough
well today.
Tough race. Never mind.
Good try.
You really did well today.
Yeah, no, the boys did a great job today.
Everybody did.
One of those races, but it was still a good result.
Of course it was.
It's a good result. It's the best we could pull off.
Yeah,
So.
you're right.
Anyway.
Well done.
This
Well
means
done.
we're coming back next year.
Mike Slade and his top crew must be feeling a little disappointed. But at the dock, he explained their tactics, or lack of.
Mike, how are you, mate? How are you, mate? Welcome to Hobart, mate.
Well, it's a great day. It's a great day to be here. What a lovely time to arrive, just in time for a damn good breakfast.
You missed last night's drinks, mate.
Well, I know I did, but they've got a black velvet fine, like Guinness and champagne. That's what I'm looking forward to now, Jeff. And you'd understand that. That's the right thing to have after these shocking race. An absolute shocker.
You want to tell us about it?
Well, not really. I'm going to have to sort of think about it, what I feel about it over a long period of time.
Was it worth it?
It was always worth it. But you know, when Napoleon turned up at Waterloo, he was in for a bad day. He had a bad day at the office, didn't he? Well, I feel a bit like that. It was one of those bad days you get. No, it's a fantastic race. Fantastic race. And well done, Alfa. Bloody marvellous. But we took a big gamble down the eastern side and it didn't pay off, so we got really punished and it just got worse and worse and worse. Well, we went offshore. So there's no point in following Alfa's tracks. They had about 20 miles on us. So the answer was to go offshore. They went inshore. Wild Oats also came inshore and we just got locked out. We just had about 4 shutdowns and it was frustrating as hell. So we took a gamble because there's no point coming second. I wanted to try and beat Alfa. So I wasn't going to do it just following him, was I? So we went offshore to go all the way round. We just got stuck and we sat there for hours and watched them all go away. Yeah, no, before that. No, that whole east side, we decided to do it on the outside rather than going up the inshore. And that cost, we got punished, that's all that mattered. Well, that was Tasman Island, was the worst I've ever come across. There was no wind and appalling seas. So, well done, I mean, Loyal will have got through it, and here they come, I think. And they will have got through it, but, you know, it was really nasty. And of course, it's a lee shore, and you've got no steerage because there's no wind, but these seas were huge. And that took us a couple of hours, you know. And Alfa and Oats are already gone up, you know. The rich get rich and the poor get poorer, but I mean, that's what the game's all about. So it was a shocker, but we loved every minute of it. And we'll be back to do another one, I hope, one day. Glutton for punishment, I am.
Dr. Ray Davies from New Zealand, he's one of the top tacticians in the world, does all the major races. Ray, would you call this one of your best?
No, probably one of my worst. We had a great start to the race and we were sticking to our game plan and the conditions were ours at the beginning. The boat was going really well. We were marching away upwind, but then, you know, even through the next day we were going well, hanging in there in the reaching conditions, and then they just started gradually sailing away on the Alfa. We managed to hold Wild Oats for a long time, and then both started separating. We thought we'd go for the gamble to try and pass Alfa rather than defending, and so we took an offshore route down the outside of Tasmania. For a moment there we thought it might work quite nicely for us. We picked up a new southeasterly breeze, and then all the breeze around us just lifted, just evaporated, and we're sitting out there with no wind at all. The rich just got richer.
Well, isn't that sort of this area, isn't it? That sort of sailing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough race to win. You really have to be on your game to the very end, and today Alfa did a really thorough job. Defended both of us, kept themselves in a nice controlling position, and sailed smart and fast.
So what's for you now? Where do you go? You go back to Europe?
Yeah, a couple of weeks off and then back to Dubai for some RC44 training, and then the RC44 regatta at the end of the month. And then the Louis Vuitton in Auckland, and then a full-on season next year with the 52s and the America's Cup racing.
Are you going to be in Valencia in February?
No, I won't be in Valencia, but we'll just be with Team New Zealand, just preparing hopefully for the next one. Hopefully these guys resolve it all in February, and then we can really focus on the next America's Cup.
They're talking about the sales of Alinghi at the moment and where they're made, etc. Under the deed of gift, do you get any words on that?
Yeah, no, it's a debatable one for sure. So we'll have to see what the juries rule. You could see both sides of the argument, that's for sure. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Those two 90-footers in the Med, what do you think that sort of racing will be like?
Oh, it's going to be incredible. I don't know if the racing's going to be that fantastic for the guys on board, but it's going to be pretty thrilling. It'll be one of those special moments when we see them line up together, and there'll be many eyes glued on that. But I think the actual racing will be quite boring.
What about the wing mast?
Yeah, fantastic. The wing mast, it's great. Great to see that sort of development going on such a big scale. What a massive achievement. And it's clearly a lot quicker than the soft sail, and massive technology going into that campaign, and it's just great to see.
It's just a shame that it's taking so long to get it organised, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, it's a shame for everyone else, having to sit back and wait. But, in one sense, it's good to see the development going on, but really we'd rather just have some good, solid racing going on.
And what about the RC44s? What's in store this year?
Yeah, we had RC44s, we won that this year, and same team going into next year. We're doing a lot of training, and hopefully we can defend our title with Peter Harriman and the No Way Back team.
It's pretty exciting racing though, isn't it, really, in those little boats?
Yeah, the RC44 racing is really good. It's the boats are designed to be able to sail in quite light conditions, so you hardly ever have a day where you miss racing. In 5 knots of wind, most of the crew are hiking, so they really power up well. And the boats are all one design, so you can't beat that for good close racing.
What about the Louis Vuitton in March?
Yeah, Louis Vuitton coming up in March, can't wait for that one either. We've had a first and a second. We hope to put another bullet back on the board. We're all training pretty hard for that one.
Like the rest of the fleet, Ryan too experienced the holes in the pressure, and in Constitution Dock, owner Nicholas Zenstrom explains.
How did you enjoy it? It was sometimes very frustrating because it was a very, very complex race. The weather forecast changed a lot. We knew that from before the race that the forecast was changing, but actually when we were out there, it was very different from what we had seen before. So we got parked up way too many times than we had wanted to, and it was a bit, in times, very, very frustrating. But yesterday afternoon we had a fantastic run. We were reaching and were peaking up maybe 24 knots of boat speed, and it was just very, very nice. And also today was also a very good day, this morning and last night. We had a few stops and goes, but so we now we just have to wait and see. We're very happy we beat Alfa on corrected time, and now we just have to sit here and wait for the other boats to come in and see how we will do. And we heard a lot because we were really in the middle of I think some of the bigger boats where they got ahead of it, and smaller boats didn't get the worst of it. And I think we were just in that spot where we got the worst of it. So we hoped that was our bit of bad luck for this race, but then we got more bad luck, and also the second night. So we were really parked up for many, many hours. So we used our drifter quite a lot, and but that's yacht racing, and specifically that's how it is with offshore races. You have to avoid those unlucky events as much as possible.
What about the boat itself, Nicholas? Were you happy with that?
Yeah, the boat performed very, very well. So we had no problem whatsoever. And we had spent a lot of time putting reef lines in that we never used.
Were the sails okay?
Yes, all the sails worked very well. We just had the tack line came off twice, but no problem. We had a fantastic run yesterday. There was excellent sailing. We were reaching and averaging 18, 19 knots and topping at maybe 24 knots, and it was just fantastic. I think everyone in our team are very focused, and no one is giving up. And I think we were focused all the time. So that wasn't a big problem. It was a bit frustrating from time to time, but then you just have to live with that and move on and sail as the best you can do. And you can have to recalibrate your objectives as well. And so we started to realize that our objective was at least to do everything we can to win our class.
Yeah, it's been a tough race. I mean, certainly not in a typical Sydney-Hobart fashion. I mean, I've never had an easier crossing in Bass Strait. It was very pleasant, and all that side of it was very nice, but yeah, mentally pretty hard. I think all the models struggled a little bit. I mean, certainly we had, I think most people had more of an upwind race, a little bit more breeze for most of the time, but actually shortly after the start it started to pan out. I mean, I think the models caught up quite quickly with what was going on, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly, when we left the dock we thought we were in for 20 knots upwind, which is what this boat does, absolutely excels at. So, we had a bit of that at the start and we launched out into an early lead, but quickly that sort of turned around. This boat doesn't go that well in light air in truth. It's a, it's a flyer upwind and a bit of breeze, but the light conditions are harder for us. And I think we've actually done a reasonable job there, and only time will tell how it pans out overall.
Bob Steele, the skipper of Quest, the TP52, is now back in Hobart after winning the race last year and drifting down this year. Bob, how'd that all go?
Well, Jeffrey, to say we had a bit of bad luck would be an understatement. I actually deliberately arrived here at 2 o'clock in the morning, believing that there'd be no cub reporters on the dock at all, only to walk straight into your clutches. And here I am at 2 a.m. in the morning. I was just about to sneak off to the airport. My beautiful wife came down to see me, and she said there are no flights leaving, so I've got to stay till the morning. But anyway, you've caught me. No, look, our race sort of started off quite poorly because we sort of ran into another yacht very early on, just going around the first sea mark or going out of the head. So we had to do a penalty turn there and apologise to the people that we ran into. And then, we picked a big hole, a big fat hole with a big rain depression, and sat there for not too long, but at the end of the day we're 30 miles behind. Then this afternoon, well, you know, Mother Nature reminded us of how powerful that she is, and hit the fleet, or hit us anyway, with a, you know, 35, 40 knots of breeze at times, and kept it up for, you know, 6 or 7 hours, which we, you know, all complained bitterly to her about, but she took no bloody notice of us.
And the river, what was the Derwent like tonight for you?
Derwent was good until we got here, you know, just about the casino, and I thought, well, I might as well walk in there and I might have a bit of luck in the casino. I had no luck in the racetrack. Anyway, the breeze started dropping out, so we just drifted across the line in front of the big American boat, Raptor I think it was, and they'd been in front of us the whole trip, and, you know, in the last 20 metres we pinched a spot over line on them, but that was our day. But I was proud of the guys. I mean, they worked well. We had a tremendous, you know, team. We made, you know, one decision which was our downfall, but you really couldn't have foreseen that it was going to be so catastrophic that we would just tack into this wonderful hole.
Jeff Nolan, skipper of Rapture, the cruiser racer Far 100, had a full crew of boat owners. He reflects on his race.
Frustrating race for us. It was definitely a strange Hobart. Stop and start really is the best way to describe it. We parked about 3 or 4 times and watched the rest of the fleet catch up, and then took off again and parked, and, you know, it was a series of events like that. But yeah, all in all, a good Hobart, and you know, we're glad we did it. A few little damages here and there, but that's yacht racing, and we're generally pretty happy with ourselves. I think we have 14 captains on board, but which was great pool of knowledge, and everyone really, you know, champed in. We're all Indians this time. We had Matt Humphreys, our sailing master, so he guided us along, and yeah, we did really well. We were happy with our performance with the crew, and the boat went well. It's just it's hard to race a draft horse against thoroughbreds.
We're halfway across the infamous, notorious Bass Straits, and I could be wrong here, but I think we've got a bath on board. There's not many yachts that have done this race with a bath, and to have a bath in the Bass Straits, I reckon this could be a first.
Yeah, we're a charter boat also, so we're available for charters here and there. So we're hoping that this will create a bit of interest and spur us along.
So what about the crew? How many have you got on board?
We're a crew of 21 total, and yeah, one female, our chef.
I'm the chef, Anita. I'm a Rapture. I've been on the boat since a year now, and we've been doing a lot of deliveries, but yeah, cooking for 20 people is a bit different, especially 20 big boys who are actually really hungry, spending 4 hours on the rail. So it's a hard call for them, and at the end of the trip they're quite hungry, you know, so they're coming in as wolves.
You gonna do it next year?
Oh, definitely not.
And we had up to 40 knots. We ripped our main, blew out a staysail block and a few little things like that. So we were limping along for a little while, but recovered from that, and yeah, we recovered and got back on track. And that, yeah, it was certainly we didn't expect it to be that strong, but I think it caught everybody out around us actually, all the TPs and everything.
You're never too old to sing a country song. You're never too old.
The 2 coffee machines are still working. I'm about to have one. But it'll be mixed with rum.
You're never too old to sing a country song. Never too old to sing a country song.
Over the next 2 days, the fleet drifted in. The overall winner of the 65th Rolex Sydney-Hobart yacht race was Too True, a Far-designed Beneteau 40. The Tattersalls Cup was presented to the owner-skipper, South Australian Andrew Sayes, from the Cruising Yacht Club of South Australia.
The first of these boats came on the water in Europe about late April last year. So, you know, as people who watch this race know and who compete in it, I mean, the harbour, particularly in a downwind start, is always potentially eventful. You know, boats are coming in at varying speeds with spinnakers up and some with spinnakers down, and we're all converging on a turning mark, and it's a fair bit of jostling for positions. And you know, my general experience in in big fleets at the start of a long race is that people try and keep themselves fairly clean and you know, give and take a little bit in terms of these things to avoid any significant problems, and that was our expectation, that people would conduct themselves in that way. We're in a situation where we were sort of sandwiched between a couple of boats with nowhere to go, and the incident occurred thereafter. To come in knowing that we were the provisional winners, there's just nothing like it. It's an amazing feeling, and the crew felt that all, yeah. And once we cleared the protest issue and we could truly sort of relax and enjoy, you know, the fact that we're now winners, you suddenly think of the you know, the sort of company that you're in, the people who have won this event in the past, the sort of names and the legends of ocean racing internationally that have competed for and won this trophy. And you know, it's just hard to believe that you are now in that company and part of that history. It's just an amazing experience.
It's the Sydney-Hobart race. Everyone's got to do it.